here bringing you perspective with hope, and I am so thankful for all of the support this far. I do ask that you all continue to like, share, subscribe, follow, comment, all of the things. I appreciate you guys coming along with me on this brand new journey as I push out content that is centered around God.
Brianna,
Yes.
I have the privilege of calling you friend.
Yes.
I have the privilege, really, honestly, you're like to me, like my spiritual big sister.
Mm.
And so I am curious, how did this all begin for you, this walk with Jesus? How did it come about?
That's a really good question. Man, okay. So we gotta go back. So like I was mentioning to you, I came from a family that my parents really didn't know God for themselves. They probably knew him on like a very elementary Sunday school level. Like they probably knew um, the very basic Sunday school um, stories, but they were not walking in communion with God, and they weren't teaching us as their kids how to live a life in connection with God. So, my parents were entrepreneurs.
Okay.
My dad started his own electrical contracting company
Okay.
from when I was very little, and it was highly successful.
Okay.
So, and my mom worked for the company as well. So, mom and dad were busy. They were hard workers, and I really thank them for that because that taught me a lot of, um, skills and giftings that you do have to be a hard worker. That I mean, just all the entrepreneurial skills and gifts. We would often come into their building with them and play office and pretend to answer the phones and use all their highlighters and sticky notes and stuff like that. But also there are some challenges with the entrepreneurial lifestyle. A lot of our dinner time conversation revolved around the business. So it didn't necessarily revolve around the family.
Yeah.
A lot of our summers we had babysitters. We weren't watched. We didn't spend a lot of time with our family, or like with our parents.
Yeah.
When I would get home from school, often the TV would be like my babysitter. So there were a lot of sacrifices our family made, just on behalf of the business. And the lesson that came through was often that your hard work was something that was first and foremost and not the dependence on God.
Okay.
So that was kind of the primary message that came through in my family. Now, do I blame my parents? No, not at all. They were doing the best that they could, and I have a great relationship with them now. Like, I love them. They are awesome people. And actually now they're walking in close communion with God.
Okay.
So it's kind of come to be like a full circle moment. But I grew up, really longing for close communion, closer relationship with my parents than what I had, especially with my dad. My dad was quite distant, and I think as a little girl, I was really missing that father figure, that man in my life to tell me and to speak worth and value into my little girl heart, that beautiful, that I am worthwhile. And so I went searching for that in all the wrong places. Yeah. And so I started having boyfriends from like elementary school, middle school. I mean, all throughout grade school and stuff, because I think my little girl heart was just searching for that validation, for a man in particular to tell me, like, you are beautiful, you are worthwhile, you are worthwhile, you are worth pursuing. And I wasn't getting that from home. And so thankfully, I think God protected me a lot, and my innocence and my purity, because I didn't, like, travel down the physical road so much with men and with guys, but it was more the cry of my heart than it was the cry of my body.
Okay.
So but I feel like I was just giving away pieces of my heart, that, just a little bit by little bit. And I saw my sisters doing the same thing too. Like, I think all of us were kind of just crying out for validation and for worthwhile, and then it kind of also led me down a road of rebelliousness against my parents too. My parents had really, like, high standards for us. They were strict with their boundaries, but without a lot of, like, meaning or purpose behind it, or like without the relationship behind it. It just felt like rules. And as a rebellion, and then so as a teenager, it just felt like, okay, you're gonna give me rules, I'm gonna break those rules. And so I started experimenting with drinking a little bit, with having the wrong friends. I started experimenting with marijuana. Okay. And that's when my dad found marijuana in my purse, and he threatened to send me away to like a boarding school or some sort of like a get you right type of a get a camp or something. And as a punishment, I had to go to a youth summer camp for my church. Okay. And so it was, and I didn't really have a lot of friends at my church, at my youth group and stuff. So for me, that did feel like a punishment. It was like, oh no, how am I going to spend like a week away of my summer at like this church camp? That just sounds like a miserable use of my week, of my summer, And it was really at that church camp that God just really started to like get a hold of my heart.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So for all the rebelliousness and everything, I just knew that, I always knew that God existed, and I knew the claims of the Bible were real, that Jesus was a real person, that he really walked the earth. And it's like, man, if all these things are true, then I got to start living like it. Otherwise, I'm really just condemning myself, Yeah. So it started off maybe as like fire insurance, or like, maybe a little bit of like a fear tactic. But slowly my love for God started to grow.
That's good.
So
I actually relate to that. Yeah. In a different way.
Tell me.
But literally, so I grew up without my father, and so I can relate to, like, I mean, in pre-K
Yeah.
having boyfriends.
Right.
Can like literally boyfriend every year. I had a boyfriend,
Yeah.
and I just like you said, it was a cry for my dad essentially, and shoot, that's how eventually in high school, I dated a guy for a while, and then I ended up with Ishmael. But I was always known for just being in relationship,
Right.
always. And I was like proud of that. Like I'm 2 years, three. Like girl, you're
Yeah.
you're 12. Calm down.
Yeah.
But even then, but I grew up in church, had boyfriends in church even,
Yeah.
and I remember it was one time in my life specifically when I was going to a Trinity church for Bible study. I was there for my boyfriend because he went to Trinity, and so I'm like, okay, I'm with my boyfriend. Like this is our time together in a sense. But that's when God really started tugging on my heart, and I felt it. I felt His presence. That's when I've told you before. It's about that time where I had my very first encounter with God, and it was all for me following behind a boy.
Yeah.
That God really made Himself known to me. And then of course I went through the rebel stage, sneaking, doing the things, that we all do. But that led me to God. So it's
So
really
you've had the same types of
Yes.
stages.
Absolutely.
And really, to me, those just point to the ultimate pursuer and romancer of our heart, which
Amen.
is our heavenly, our bridegroom.
Yeah.
He's meant to be the one to fill that empty void that only, and he's the only one who can speak into that empty place in our heart that our earthly dads can't. Yeah.
Or they try their best. Either way, like
Mm-hmm.
I think I said this a while back, but our earthly father is flawed.
Yes. Right.
Our heavenly father is not.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a different type of love. So no matter if you grew up with your father or you didn't, or you grew up with a very attentive father, at the end of the day, he is not God, and
Right.
he's not perfect. And a lot of times we kind of idolize that idea of our earthly father.
Mm-hmm.
And I also want to speak to this, like God keeping us through this phase, because imagine how many women do go through this, how many young girls do go through this, but they get bruised along the way in so many different ways. And I am so grateful that God kept me through situations where I could have been raped, or I could have been assaulted, or I could have, like, different things. And so God is good.
Yeah, He is good. And then here's another part of my story too. So I'm the oldest of 3 girls. My younger 2 sisters are twins, and they are very close, tight-knit twins with one another. So mom and dad, in my family of origin, mom and dad had each other, and then the twins had each other. And where did that leave me?
Yeah.
Everyone in my family had their other person, had their other half. But I didn't have my other half. When we would go, let's say, on roller coasters or something, and there was a 2-seater, it's like everyone kind of had their person that they would go with, and Bree would go by herself, or like when we would sleep in a hotel room, everyone would sleep with their person, and I would sleep on the couch or on the floor or whatever, and so I think that also left my heart with this gaping hole of like, where is my other half? And so coming into marriage, I had this gaping wound of like, this person ought to fulfill me. And ought to, like, I just had this immense weight or pressure, or like, this person is going to fulfill me, and more so than maybe other people did. And when I started having early on conflict with Devin, who's my husband, I was like, oh boy, you better not, you are not my person, because my person would not treat me this way. And that led to early on strife, and I had to obviously go through a lot of counseling and unearthing that story in my life to realize that that was a weight or a pressure or an expectation I came in putting on to him. So yeah,
that's good.
Yeah,
That's good.
Yeah,
because a lot of times we really don't realize. Like we just went through our counseling session today, and it brought up a couple of things where it's like, okay, this is rooted, or this stemmed from a broken relationship with my father.
Yeah.
And not realizing how much we carry that feeling of abandonment, that feeling of not being wanted with us, and how it shapes how we, like you said, expect our partners to show up for us. And that may not be 100% realistic.
Yeah.
Like they, but also you want them to show up for you, but this trauma is causing you to retreat. This trauma is causing you to freeze, and that also is not good.
Right.
So that's good.
Yeah.
That's real good.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about, we're kind of already here, but actually let's go back.
Okay.
Because you went to this camp.
That's right.
That changed your life.
That's right. That was kind of the initial major turning point. Yes.
And now, you're married with these 3 beautiful children. I'm curious. Well, I kind of know some of the story, but from that moment of you going to this 1-week camp to where you met Devin, let's talk about that.
Okay, good. All right, so the camp happened the summer leading into my senior year. Okay. So a lot of shifts began to happen. A lot of my friend groups started to change leading into then my senior year, and a lot of kind of deconstructing of my old life and reconstructing into my new life, stripping of the old self and a putting on of the new self began. And I started leading and investing more into my youth group and stuff in my senior year. Thankfully, a lot of the youth group friends started embracing me and stuff, which I was really thankful for. And I just, I just dove in, really head first. And
can I ask you, how did your parents and your sisters receive that? Did that shock them?
I think they were shocked. And my sisters, I think, did not receive me the best. I think they saw me on Sunday mornings with hands raised and in worship, and I don't think they were like, wait a second, like is this the same Brie that we know? And I don't think I don't think they received me the best. But they hadn't yet seen the life transformation happen in my life. So they hadn't seen me walk out yet my new faith. And there was a lot of grief and a lot of stripping off a lot of what I knew. So my senior year was, people talk about the senior year being the best year of high school. For me, it was a mix of a lot of sorrow and a lot of joy.
Okay.
So it was an interesting time of my life, but then going from there, all I knew as people were making their decisions of like what's next and where to go to college and stuff, I didn't have a clear direction of like of where to go or what career path was next or whatever. All I knew was, man, I wanted to serve God with my whole heart, and I didn't really know the Bible as well as I wanted to know the Bible. And so it's a kind of a long story, but I did these Bible schools overseas.
Okay.
I did a year of studying the Bible overseas, and so I went to a year of school in Spain. And
Okay, that's
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
So have you heard of the what is it, the Great Camino?
I have.
Okay.
I
just
know.
heard about that the
I know.
other day.
I know what it is.
Okay. Cool. I didn't know that.
And so, I mean, like, I couldn't have told you who Peter was versus Paul, or what the order of the books of the Bible or anything. So it was just kind of, I got a certificate in the Bible, and yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome.
And then from there, all I knew is like I just wanted to serve God with my whole heart, and I was zealous and sold out, and like I still hadn't stripped all the layers away of like wanting to. I definitely still saw like the looking for approval in men and stuff that hadn't left yet, and so I was pursuing this life of looking towards going overseas because I loved life overseas. Life in Spain was lovely. I got to backpack through Europe. I just love life overseas. And so the more I began to learn about how few people overseas have the testimony of the gospel, it really like broke my heart, and I was like, there's got to be someone, like, here I am, Lord, I'll go. And so I began to make plans towards going myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we've gone closer in our relationship because you guys have this missions group.
Yeah.
That I think it started off with like, okay, we met this couple that we really like at church, and we already told you, like, we saw you, like, okay, we want to spend time with them, like we want to get to know them. And so even though I have never really felt called overseas or anywhere else, more in my backyard because there are people here.
Right.
It was like, okay, well, let's go spend time. And then our kids really like each other.
Yes.
So like, let's go spend time. And so that's kind of where our relationship has grown through your love for missions. Right. You and Devin's love for missions. So I think that's really cool.
Yes. So, and then along the path towards pursuing missions is where I met Devin. And he also felt called towards a specifically Muslim people group. And so when we met each other, it was like, oh, well, this seems like a really natural fit. Is like, you love Muslim people and you love Jesus, and I love Jesus, and this seems like a pretty natural, easy fit. But as I kind of alluded to before, we began having a lot of early marital conflict, and we kind of took the fast track towards marriage, and began having these issues that we needed counseling for, and that I needed especially to unearth some of these deeper, like, why is this conflict causing it to go so much deeper than just a simple disagreement? Like, man, it's getting real, you know. And so we weren't fit for going overseas ourselves at that time, and it's actually kind of just derailed us from going overseas ourselves in general. So that's, yeah.
Okay. I am particularly interested in talking about when we first got together.
Yeah.
For our first date together.
Yes.
You told me about how you were overseas.
Yeah.
Was this a mission that you were on? Okay.
It was one of my. Okay, so yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So you were on a mission, and I don't know how we came across this conversation, but you realized that you had a spiritual gift while you were overseas, and the story is so amazing to me, and so I'm very intrigued about like that story, and I would love for you to share it.
Okay, so I've had a few instances of speaking in tongues overseas. So I think in general, I just have the general gift of picking up on foreign languages quickly, which might be categorized as the gift of speaking in tongues. I don't know, but when I lived in Morocco for about a year and a half, and I don't know, Hope, I just began speaking and conversing in Arabic quickly.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I was around Moroccans all the time. I took some Arabic classes and everything, but I think it was like supernaturally downloaded to me, honestly, because I just learned the language faster, and I'm also like a really good mimic. I'm like really good at just picking up on other people's mannerisms and stuff, and so I just began like I don't know, integrating into life there really quickly, and so yeah, I began navigating through life in Morocco in Arabic quite well, very early on.
Yeah.
And then there was one time in particular in Morocco when I arrived at a woman's house. Now we're talking about in the village of Morocco, like way up in the mountains. There's no cell phones, there's no TV, no electricity, there's no running water, there's no, and there had been a death, and the reason we knew that there had been a death is because there are professional mourners or professional wailers that are hired, and they come and they wail, they mourn, they over the dead body, and so I walked into this situation, and there was a woman there, and she had tears in her eyes, and all of the homes there are multi-generational homes. So grandmas live together with the mothers, and the children, and they're multi-generational homes. So when there's a death, it touches everyone in that family, and then it touches the whole surrounding village. A death is a very significant event, and then also you have to think about, in the heat of the Moroccan sun in the summer, a body can begin to decay very quickly. And so it's an event to keep the body cool, and you have to grieve, and it's an event that needs to be cared for delicately. But when I arrived, the woman had tears in her eyes, and I just I think the Holy Spirit just granted me the supernatural knowledge that this was her mother that had just died. And the words began to pour out of my mouth in Arabic to comfort her, to give her supernatural comfort in Arabic. That I didn't know the I didn't have the vocabulary for, and I couldn't today replicate it again.
Yeah.
But at the time, the Holy Spirit wanted to give her comfort.
Wow.
And so so I was able to provide her comfort in that moment. And when I started speaking, she began crying more, and she gave me an enormous bear hug. And to be honest, I don't even really know what I said.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was a moment that I was able to give supernatural comfort through the Holy Spirit and through the gift of tongues. And I was overcome.
Yeah.
That was a time in my life, though, that I was so acting and just living. Like I said, I was so zealous and on fire for the Lord, and just operating so closely with His Spirit that I was just walking so hand in hand with God every day, that to feel overcome by Him, it just felt so second nature, almost.
Question.
Yeah.
And this is completely in a different direction, but how, I think this is such an important topic. We've kind of been talking about it in Bible study. How do you walk hand in hand with God? Like, what does that look like? What does that feel like? And I find myself at times searching for that, because I've had moments of it, but it's like, why isn't it consistent?
Right.
Or, how do I get back to that place?
Yeah. Well, that's a really good question, because I'm going to tell you quite honestly that right now I'm not currently operating in that place. Actually, I was just talking to Devin last night that I have kind of been feeling like I've just been going through the motions of my faith, and I don't know that that's necessarily. I want to get back to that place where I'm where I'm living in such close proximity to God, and where we're just walking hand in hand. But I know that I just felt so alive. I know that I felt so alive and so vibrant. Now, granted, I was also a college girl. I had very few responsibilities. I had very few attachments. Very few I was just free as a bird.
Yeah.
I could travel on a whim. I could just go, and that's what I did. When God said go, I went. When He said,
that's good.
When he said, I just was free and unencumbered. And that's not how my life is now. I have a house, I have a mortgage, I have cars, I have kids, I have a husband, And
Got
there,
Rocky.
yeah, I have a dog. There, there's something to that when Paul is talking about like, single people, you know, you have less attachments,
Yeah.
and you're able to serve and operate, and live, a lot closer to. So I don't know. Anyway, I don't know if I'm fully making sense.
Yeah,
but
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
But
Yeah.
all I know is I felt vibrant and alive, and I felt the most myself that I've ever felt. So I kind of grieve that and miss that part of me. But I also think that my relationship now with God has reached like a new depth, like a new maturity,
Yeah.
a new, like, almost like when you see an elderly couple who are like just holding hand in hand, and like they almost don't need to even exchange words anymore.
Yeah.
And like there's a comfortability with each other, and like I feel like God and I are like a little bit getting to that. I don't want to ever get comfortable with God and like just take him for granted, or like definitely not like lose my awe or my splendor, the splendor of God, but he and I there's a maturity of my faith that I didn't have when I was in college as well. So it's kind of a both and.
Yeah. I feel the last time I felt that vibrant was actually back in 2023, May of 2023, where it's like it's a high that you can't even explain.
That's right.
And I mourn it. Like probably this morning I was crying about it. Like, God, why? Like, how can I get back to this place?
Yeah.
How, and it's sometimes you can just feel so distant in a way. And so that's why I asked that question. And I know that looks different for everybody, but I know for me, I know that it came with me really having that specific space where I praised and I like spent time with God.
That's good. Yeah, because that's how we want to enter his courts, is with thanksgiving and with praise.
Yeah, and just really I spent so much time with him in that season. Granted, I had time to work the job that I was working, I had time to do it.
Yeah.
So much so that like I would hear it clearly. I could feel it. When I knew I wasn't right or something, I could just feel it.
That's right.
It was beautiful.
That's right.
It was so beautiful.
That's right.
And I think, God, the end of that season, God had told me my assignment at my job was done, and so he moved me into a different place. But this place was so overwhelming.
Yeah.
I couldn't spend time with him. Like there was no time.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe now, just realizing it in this conversation, but this time where he's pulled me away from work is that time, like get back, find that place again.
Yeah.
The opportunity.
Yeah.
To find that place again.
And I sense that in you. I sense that like you have really been using this loss of your job and this window of opportunity as an opportunity. So I affirm that and applaud that in you.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so our last topic is, so you did not grow up in this Christian home.
Yeah.
you stumbled across Christianity because your dad wanted to show you something, but really that changed your life.
It did.
For the better.
It did.
But I've been around your kids. My kids call your youngest son their best friend. They talk about it all the time. Every now and then, can we go to Heathen's house? No, you can't.
Yeah.
It's a school night, please.
Oh.
Even where's Rocky? Like, what's Rocky doing? I don't know.
Oh.
But I've spent enough time in your space to just be so amazed at how you've raised your children.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
For real. I mean, very clear roots. Like, even I remember sitting here and going through the Bible and talking about a story, and your oldest is just like, "Oh, you're talking about," and I'm like, "What? How do you know that?"
They're amazing.
They know.
They're amazing.
They love God.
They love His word. They love His word. Thank you.
How'd you do that?
How did I do that? It's not me. Honestly, it's just so much grace. It's so much evidence of grace, and it's thanks to my husband too. And it's shoot. I tried to surround myself with godly women early in my
that's good.
Early in my parenting journey that I really respected and modeled, wanted to model my life after and my mothering after. But I read books, I listened to the podcasts, and it's honestly just so much grace. We chose a life verse for each of our kids, and we have just spoken that identity over all three of them. We each of their names has a significant meaning, and we continue to speak that life over them. And we do have we take time as a family. We do family dinners regularly, and we just love each other. We make a ton of mistakes. We get frustrated with one another. We yell at each other. But we come back and we apologize quickly, and we I'm quick to say, like, I'm still in need of Jesus's work in my life in this area, and this area, and this area, and I'm not a perfect person, and I'm not arrived, and so I want to evidence the gospel in my life, and I just keep saying to them, I just want to do everything I can to like show you Jesus and get out of the way, you know, and to steward you well. So that's what I got for you. It is not a science. It is an art. And I see you doing it well too.
Thank you.
So
I'm trying.
I know.
I am trying.
Yes.
But I love that. I actually have a life verse, and I never thought about giving them one.
Yes.
Because it's something that I chose when I got baptized or rededicated my life later in life. But I'm going to give them a life verse.
Yeah.
I'm doing that today.
There you go. You go. And it's something that we just speak over them, and they know it for themselves, and they go through in their Bible and they highlight it, and so
that's awesome. That's an awesome tip. Everybody take that with you.
Yeah.
I love that because I never even thought about it, and I've given them names with very specific meanings, and I do think names are so important because you're speaking that over a person,
that identity,
their whole life.
That's right.
And so, but that life verse, like right now, Kingsley he has a really good memory, but he has memorized the Lord's Prayer.
Good for him.
Ryan is still working on it.
Yeah.
But and we do verses as well, But giving them a life verse to remember is going to be special. I love that. I love that.
Good. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for
Thank
spending time with me
you.
and having this God
Conversation.
You're my first God conversation.
What an
so
honor.
This is exciting.
I was nervous to do this, but I'm so glad we did.
I'm glad I learned some things about you. Because at the end of the day, like, this is cool for this, but really, what I love about God Conversations, and I think you are part of waking this up. You and Teresa were part of waking this up in me and Ish. Is that there's so much to discover about God when you talk to people.
That's right.
Because he's so big and broad that you may have seen a side of him that I haven't yet.
Yeah. Well, the image of God is written in each one of us, and so the image of God is written in part of you and part of me and part of Ish and Teresa, and so like we've got to uncover it in each of each other.
I love that.
Yeah.
So that's the point of the God Conversations, just is to talk about it and just discover some things about each other.
Well, I look forward to listening in on